that.
Okay, so that's brilliant. So, welcome everyone. We have Jill, we have Sabrina, and myself, Mignon, and we all have gathered to have this wonderful conversation today. And we are going to introduce ourselves. We'll start with Jill, and then we'll go to Sabrina, and then I shall introduce myself at the end. And then we will uh, discuss about how we met and our impressions of each other the first time and how we've come about to get onto this conversation. So let's start with Jill.
Oh, great. You're going to start with me. Okay. That's great because this is coming out. I don't know what I'm going to say. My name is Jill Haney, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina, in the United States, a city that was devastated back in September by Hurricane Helene. So it's been a very interesting time here in Asheville. Originally, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, but I've been here in Asheville in these mountains for 25 years. And I had begun my spiritual journey at 24 years old. And I really thought I had done a lot of work in my life when I had moved here 25 years ago. And it was almost like the bottom fell out of my life over the last 25 years. And a woman pulled me to the side one night in a restroom. We were washing our hands. She was from Australia and she was a shaman. And she said to me, you know, these mountains being the oldest mountains in the world pull you here. This is Native American theory. She said, they pull you here to do your work and they will not release you until it's done. And so that was sort of scary to me because I thought, oh God, can it get any worse? You know, but what I started learning about was my own inner journey. And I started learning about we do create our own reality and starting to see how a snowball effect of negative thinking can take you down roads that you can never imagine, which ended up landing me into doing a podcast, total fluke, not my idea. And the universe said, you're going to do this. And it happened, and it's catapulted my life into a lot of more healing and deeper work. And I just call it shedding skins. And I feel like that's what I've been doing really my whole adult life is shedding belief systems and thoughts that were self-defeating and just also generational. And so I think it's really important to have an open mind, an empty mind. If you really want to change your life and your thinking, it all starts in our brain. And so, and our heart too. But anyway, that's my intro. And I look forward to this conversation. And I love you two very much.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jill.
Jill. So I'm Sabrina, and I met Mignon and Jill in Tipperary in January, and we went on the Louise Hay journey, didn't we, girls? So I have been looking at and following Louise Hay for over 20 years. My spiritual path came out of a lot of challenges, a lot of heartbreak, and then I fell among the Louise Hay book, and I opened the book, and my whole world started to change when I started to read what the contents of that book said. So I have been on this journey, this spiritual journey, for quite a long time. Have followed lots of different mentors, but my go-to would be the Louise Hay work. And for me, it was the foundation of absolutely everything. So I am so blessed to have met these two ladies, and we all share such a really emotional and powerful journey, don't we? To the journey of self-love. It's a journey of self-love, really, isn't it? So that's wee bit about me. We're all now Heal Your Life workshop leaders and coaches, and we are dedicated to growing and helping others grow. That's what we're all here for, girls, isn't it?
Thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
that, Sabrina. So let me introduce myself. I'm Mignon, and I live in England, and I am physiotherapist by by my profession, but I've been on a spiritual journey for the last 10 years. And again, it's come from various traumas and challenges in life, and really how I have navigated myself from all those challenges. And I think when it comes to healing, it's a journey, and I'm still healing, and I still have a lot of healing to do. But having said that, is yes, I think I have had various different mentors, and various different motivational speakers that I've gone through, and it's always taking anything that resonates with you and then applying it to you, what's best suited. I have also done sound therapy, and I'm a sound therapy practitioner. And I have realized in my working career that how holistic therapies really help in just, providing you with the best quality treatments, not just the medical aspect, but also then exploring all the other various holistic therapies. And that could be coaching, that could be sound therapy, that could be energy work, that could be, there are so many various different types of work that one can do to heal themselves. And we are so grateful that the three of us, yes, met at Tipperary in Ireland. What a journey that was. And I think that was one of the most beautiful journeys of my life, where I've met these beautiful, wonderful women, all healers and all healing, together. And I think that was a beautiful experience. And then coming back from that, we have now been trained to be Louise Hay life coaches and workshop leaders. And I think that is, again, it's such a privilege to do that and be able to help people, and help people on their journey and on their healing journey. So we are here having these conversations, hoping to inspire people, hoping to touch people's heart, hoping to ignite that passion again to self-love, to the self-identity, to being connected within, and also being connected with everyone. So here we are. I hope you all enjoy our conversations, and the deep thoughts that provoke everything, and our life journeys, our experiences. So yes, that's us. So yes, Jill, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Louise Hay was like my early go-to, and I didn't know that, but I had gone to a conference. I was 24 years old, and I went to a conference in South Georgia on the Sea Island, which was this beautiful resort kind of place. I had no idea what I was going to, but there was this woman, and her name was Joyce Reynolds. And she deemed herself motivator of 1 in 1,000. If they start talking about God, I'm in trouble. And so she gave this analogy. She did this guided imagery. At the time, I didn't even know what that was, but I just closed my eyes and did. And she talked about a sun, the sun in the sky, and how sparks fly off the sun. And she said, that is the source. Call it God if you want, call it whatever you want. And these sparks fly off, and all of a sudden I got it. Like it shifted in me. It was like, oh my God, we're a spark. We're coming from that main source. We are a piece of God. Well, that began my journey, because I felt I was so full of guilt and shame my whole entire existence that the thought of God just sent me straight to hell. But when she talked, and then she had a book called The Energy Connection. Well, in 1986, I wasn't sure what even energy even meant. But I realized later down the road that all of her writings were inspired by Louise Hay. And it was like, whoa, that's the source coming from this source, So it was this putting the dots together. And I feel so privileged and so honored to be able to share and to carry these messages onward, because it fires your brain. And that's the part that I think that we're really going to help people to understand. It's not like, I always thought it was like pouring pink paint over something. No, it's not about like Pollyanna, oh, the world is beautiful. It's about taking a deep, deep dive into something that is quite scary. And so, but when I saw you two in Tipperary, of course, I'm like, I'd already seen you on Zoom. And so I knew that Sabrina had this big old laugh that I was just sort of drawn to, and it was cracking me up just hearing her. I hadn't even met her yet. And then Mignon, I had seen you online, and you favored a really good friend of mine, Darlene, and I instantly loved you. And so, you know, once we all got together, that's when the magic started. And it was very powerful and very life-changing. And I'm just so grateful that I chose to come and listen to my guidance that got me there.
Yes, and I think what led me to Louise Hay was I was in such a dark phase of my life at that point of time, grieving my mom's loss, which is still very recent and raw. And I wanted to transmute that pain into something more powerful. And this was my outlet. And this was me knowing that this is where I want to go and use this pain, you know, to transform not just my journey, but also touch other people's journey similar to mine. And I think that's when this first we had a Zoom call, like Jill said, and I was fascinated by Jill because she was talking about stonework and she was talking about all of those wonderful stories, you know, being all the way in the USA and we are over here in England. And I was really fascinated by that. And I was like, oh, wow, I want to know that woman, you know, even better, and get to know her. And then with, again, Sabrina, she's such a vibrant being. She's so bright and colorful and full of laughter. And then you just get attracted to energies like that because you just want to be happy and you know, vibrant and active. So that was my first in you know, impressions of the ladies, and I really wanted to get to know them. And now, you know, 5 months down the line, I think I've connected even more on a deeper level with these beautiful souls. And I think it's been, again, so powerful knowing their stories, and having these conversations and journeying with them in this realm. So it's wonderful. So yes, on to you, Sabrina.
Just as we're just chatting there, you know, getting back to the Louise Hay book, the reason I resonated with Louise Hay's book so much is because her personal story, there was threads of that in my personal story as well. And I remember thinking, if she can heal from all of this, so can I. So can I. And it just, you know, as you were chatting there about your own journeys, that was one of the strongest pieces of intuition that I had. If Louise Hay can heal, so can I. And meeting you two girls, like in Tipperary, and the journey that we had, it was such a energy of trust and compassion for each other. And that's only grown more and more as we've came back from Tipperary, and we've connected through our stories and connected through the common theme of continuing to want to heal, and then being that inspiration for others the way Louise Hay was for us, that if we can do it, so can you, you know. So yeah, just wanted to throw that bit in, girls. And you know, the connection that we have and the way that we uplift each other and hold space for each other is, you know, really profound. It's really profound for me that we hold each other without trying to fix each other, and you know, that's hopefully what we get out there into the world as well, that we're here to hold you where you're at. You don't need fixing. You know, we're whole and complete, girls. We're whole and complete.
Yeah, can I add something?
Of course, Jill.
I'll try to not talk too long, but you know, just listen to you, Sabrina. It's like you know, when I first saw you and your colorful hair and your makeup and your laughter and everything, I knew like this little voice in my head said, there's a story right there. And, you know, and I knew that on some level. I don't know how. It's just that little inner ding, you know, that Louise always talks about. It's like, you know, you get these hits in life about people, places, and things or whatever. But, you know, when I came there, I really talked to myself a lot before I came. And I said, okay, Jill, you need to drop everything you've ever learned and go in as a beginner. You know, because I've been on this journey a pretty long time, but that doesn't mean anything because day to day to day, things change. You know, life changes. So many things can shift you quickly. And I really felt like this was a huge opportunity for me to change my entire career, which has been stonework and physical labor for almost 40 years. It'd be 40 years in January that I've been using my body to make a living. But in all of that, I was using my mind and my thoughts and my daydreams to create my future. And now seeing that unfold is happening before my eyes. And when I got to Ireland and I thought, you know, I'm going to the motherland, you know, this is my parents', you know, ancestry or whatever. So I felt a very strong connection the minute I got there with everybody, whether you were from Ireland or not, but it's all in that particular place in Tipperary was very powerful. And then the storm coming through, and that was mind blowing because I had just come out of a storm, which I wasn't present when it happened. I was actually in Greece, but it destroyed my home and belongings and all that stuff. And so I was kind of like, oh, another one? Is it following me? You know, of course, me. But you know, it was just a really interesting time. But I guess the point I want to make about all of this and invite listeners to think about doing the workshops that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing workshops UK, Ireland, United States, Greece, wherever we want, actually. But a workshop is not about like going and coming back all refreshed and glowing. Yeah, you will do that, but there is a lot of involved surprises. And, you know, that was what I really am so grateful that when I walked in that room, it was like, you know, the I Ching talks about the empty bowl, the empty rice bowl, the empty mind. And I said a prayer before I even entered that room. It's like, let me have an open mind and let me just please receive what I to me. And you know that journey, and I get really excited, you know, with the talks that we've had with each other and ideas and stuff, because I know this is all part of that journey, and being in the journey and not focusing on the destination. You know, it's like the present moment. That is where our power is in the present. And so it's just so cool to be able to talk to people with the same languaging that understand what I'm talking about, that I'm not some freak walking around in Asheville. Because let me tell you, Asheville is like, oh my God, like everything is like that. But I don't resonate with that at all. And I feel like why does that drive me crazy? It does. But I feel like you guys, when I met everybody, I was like, okay, this is the real deal. And that's what I want people that are going to come to my workshop. This is the real deal. This is not some flowery bunch of words that I'm going to throw together and rehearse and say to you. This is about me and us holding a space to allow you to invite yourself into your own inner world. And it amazes me day to day to day how people really don't understand that at all. You know, I just take it for granted that everybody knows what that means. And it's pretty interesting. So we are in a huge what do you call it? I don't even know a word for it. Vortex, maybe. I don't know. But it's like I'm just so excited to be sharing this with you, with both of you. And all the other girls and the teachers from our workshop too.
I think it's for me, it's about opening your heart, keeping your heart open, and love. Louise Hay teaches can heal a lot of things. Sounds so simple, but is very, very, very true. But there are layers to get into the true love in your heart. There are layers that we have to shed: the fear, the apprehension, the belief systems that took us away from love. But ultimately, who we are and who every soul on the earth is light and love. And so the biggest takeaway from the Louise Hay work and delving into Louise Hay's philosophies is that it's not a learning, it's an unlearning. It's an unlearning. It's a shedding of everything that you're not. And so, the absolute transformation of starting to become aware of your beliefs and your thoughts and how you feel about yourself, and starting to transform that and transforming your inner world resonates out into your outer world and everybody that you meet on your path. So yes, girls, it's a very blessed journey. And just to mention as well, I'm a laugher, and I laugh loud and hard, and I love joy. But equally, I cry, and I am quite an emotional being, and I am very in touch with my emotions. So yes, a big story behind me, and I take every opportunity I can to laugh, but equally can be grounded in other emotions as well, and let them pass through me, like sadness and hurt. And even with the Louise Hay stuff, it's about accepting your frustrations and accepting anger and accepting all of these emotions. So yes, so I laugh and I take opportunities to laugh, but equally there are other emotions that we all host too, isn't there?
I completely agree. I think it's all about doing the inner work and how you connect with yourself first, and how you see the power within you. Because with Louise here, she says you create your reality. It's about, and that is powerful, knowing that we are all powerful beings creating our own reality, knowingly or unknowingly. And I think it's all about self acceptance, where we are at, and really accepting not just the positive, but also all the negative layers that we have surrounded ourselves with, our negative beliefs, our negative self-talk, our negative stories, the narratives we've told ourselves, and what we really believe. And I think that's important, is knowing what is the story that you're telling about yourself, and is it really true? and where would you like it to go and be? And so you have the power to create your own life, and no matter what that journey takes you on, you are still empowered. You have the tools, and such simple tools which are so powerful from Louise Hay. I think it really, you look at it and you're like, is this even possible? But yes, it is possible. It is possible to use these simple tools and transform your life. And I know the transformation is a word, the buzzword, but it's really, connecting with your true self, accepting where you are at, and then navigating through all of that layers, knowing where you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to do, and then creating those new stories, those new narratives that you want to embody. And I think that is the key, that we are here to support that, and we are here to support that embodiment of your true power, your self-acceptance, where you are at and where you want to be, and support you in that journey. And that's what we've been doing with ourselves. We've been doing with these connections that we have. We've been uplifting people, and not just in, oh, everything is well and everything is perfect, but also understanding that, yes, life is never going to be that easy. And especially in today's world, things are changing constantly. There is bombardment of chaos, of negativity, of fear, of lack, and we can move past through all of that. And that's the beauty of it all, with simple tools, with really connecting with ourselves, knowing who we are, embodying who we are, and really, pushing through that negative belief systems that we've protected ourselves with. So really unshedding and healing and restoring and renewing. And it's all about renewing of your mind. And I think that's important. Renewing of your heart, really connecting your heart, your mind, your soul, and really kind of blossoming from that, blooming from that. So yes, that's where we are at.
You got me thinking, Mignon, about body, mind, and spirit, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. And it's amazing how, especially here in the United States, that everybody goes to the gym and Pilates and yoga. Everybody does these things, which is great. But it's like mental musculature is equally important as those things also. Nutrition, like all the things we put in our body, we're more careful about, well, not everybody, but a lot of times we're more careful about, like, oh no, that's gluten. Oh no, that's, I'm intolerant. Well, what do you put it in your mind? And that's what I had to start looking at, was what am I feeding my brain? Am I watching a bunch of violence and crazy shit on TV? Sorry, I just cussed. Am I doing that before I go to bed? And the first thing when I wake up, am I looking at yesterday's disasters? And that's what I had to start flipping. And back in 2020, I began to wake up at 3:15 a.m. It was like this weird inner calling, and it hasn't stopped yet. And I get up every single morning very early, and I said, okay, I'm going to have to embrace this. I need to make this into something positive, because it is very hard to go do stonework for 10 hours after getting up at 3 a.m. It's almost just really, really challenging. So I decided, I'm going to embrace this time. Maybe the universe, infinite intelligence, whoever wants me to dedicate this morning to my inner world, and so that's what I started to do with the meditation, the journaling. And then ultimately this podcast came out of me. It was a 6-month recording process that I had really had nothing to do with. A poor lady handed me a microphone and said, send me a couple of stories. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't have time for that. Well, now I had time for that because I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And for 6 months, this stream of consciousness came through me. And the biggest gift of all was, after re-listening, I got to start seeing where I had created my own reality, and where I had done these loops, these vicious loops of continuing these dysfunctions over and over and over. Now I could see it. I could hear it with my own ears. It wasn't somebody saying to me, well, how about that time you did so and so? This was my voice and me listening. And I said, Jill, don't do that anymore. Boom, done. And that was one of the biggest gifts I've had, and it really catapulted my own personal growth. And I always look back and think, I was always the black sheep of my family. And I've met other black sheep along the way, which I've always resonate with the black sheep. I mean, it's like we all, for some reason, because we on some level knew that what was going on was not probably the healthiest thing that could have been, but it was our greatest teacher. And so, but this inner working is just as important to practice these muscles in our brain and our thoughts, and get out in front of these negative thoughts before they snowball into having a bad day. I mean, I used to, how do you have a bad day? Oh, everything just went wrong. But it starts with one thought, and, it's flipping it. It's learn to flip those thoughts and flip those thoughts. And that's what the Louise Hay work does. Really helps us to flip that negative into positive. And, early on, I'd hear, well, the glass is either half empty or half full. And I never understood that, because I was an alcoholic, for one thing. And I'm thinking, well, I just want to drink it. I don't care what it is. It's half or halfway. It's always half empty. But yeah, so that's just my 2 cents. I just say stuff.
Yeah, so I would say, just listening to you girls talk about the thoughts and creating your reality. 2 people can be sitting in the same place having the same physical experience, but yet be having two different experiences. So, for example, two people could be sitting side by side on the plane. One of them is absolutely really annoyed that they don't have first class. They're really annoyed that they have an 8-hour flight. They are thinking about everything that they've left at home. They're fearing what's going to happen at the other end. And equally, somebody beside them sitting in exactly the same place on the same journey can be through their own thoughts thinking, oh my goodness, this is exciting. I get to have a wee break. This flight's wonderful. This seat's really comfortable. And so two people exactly on the same journey in a plane, because of their thoughts, can be having two different experiences. And so how powerful is that? How powerful is that? And so it's bringing it back to present moment, Jill, because we are in this moment, and then the mind takes us out of this moment, and it constantly wants to project to the future or look to the past. And so there's always this resistance to the present moment. There's a resistance to what is. And so, and our thoughts and our mind tends to have the negative bias to try and keep us safe. And so for me, the Louise Hay work brings in excitement, opportunity, healing, love, peace, more peace into the body. So it's just wonderful what our thoughts can do and the power that they have every minute of every day, because most of us live from here up, and we'll walk down the street and we'll pass people and we'll notice them, but we're here, we're in here. And so we see these passing experiences on the outside, but we're living it from in here on our perception. So how amazing would it be to get up in the morning and after releasing and unlearning that you think this is going to be a good day and they're going to be amazing moments, and you start to look for the good in life, and you truly can do that through your thoughts. You can do it through your thoughts. I mean, that's the power of what our minds can do and what we can teach it to do as well. So
Definitely. And following you, Sabrina, in my practice, so when I was rehabilitating patients, and I just want to give an example again, just like your plane journey. I had two patients, one who was older. He was a gentleman who was in his 60s, and the other one was a really young gentleman in his 30s. They both had fractures and they both were wheelchair bound. But the outcome for both of them was completely different. Now, with the older gentleman, he was very focused. He knew exactly where he wanted, he knew exactly how to get there. He was very focused, he was following everything. He had the support, but the same support was provided to the younger gentleman also. Having said that, the outcomes were completely different because the younger one accepted that that was his fate and he was wheelchair bound and he just couldn't. So there was a complete disconnect with the mind and body over there. And he had already predicted that this was his outcome, that he would be wheelchair bound for the rest of his life. Whereas the old gentleman, within a few weeks of rehabilitation, he started walking. And is that a miracle? That's a miracle. But again, it's where you are you connected with yourself? Are you connected with your body? Can you hear what your body's telling you? And it's again the narrative, the story that you're telling yourself. Yes, we as humans, our subconscious minds are always protecting ourselves to keep us safe. And so it always automatically tries to save ourselves. And we always try to be in situations that's familiar to us, even if that causes pain, even if that causes suffering, but that is familiar, that causes hurt. I know that. So I am comfortable being that, although I don't want to be over there. And that's where you step out and become an observer and notice your thoughts and notice your patterns how often have you been in the same pattern, in the same vicious loop, suffering, in pain, not knowing how to get out of it? You don't see your way. And that's when you make a decision saying, you know what, this is the outcome I want, this is where I am at, and this is how I'm going to get out of there. And we can help you with that. We can help you with the Louise Hay workshops and the coaching, and, really help you get out of that stuckness and get unstuck. But you have the power. Know that you are not broken, you're not stuck, and it's just a decision for you to make where you are at, and then when you can, step out of it and really be connected with your true power. I think it's amazing. I've seen so much of that in my own working career, and that's what sparked me about how our thoughts can make such a big difference, and also about other people influencing you. Would you want other people to influence you into that negativity? Or would you want people to influence you? You should know where your tribe, is, and you should be able to choose what's best for you. So sometimes you end up choosing what's again familiar. So again, I think we can, identify these patterns. We can identify these structures that we have created where we feel comfortable, but knowing where you want to go, we can support you with that journey. So it is easy and it can be difficult, but you can do it still. So I think that's the key about knowing where you are at, accepting where you are at, but also then knowing what outcome do you want for your life, for your well-being. And I think, again, when it comes to, it's not just the mind and body, it's all aspects of your life. And I always believe if one aspect is good, it really has that ripple effect where your relations improve, your finances improve, your day-to-day activities improve, your body improves, your health improves, your mindset improves. But if you are negative or, stuck somewhere, it will start creating that ripple effect, that relationships are stuck, finances are stuck, day-to-day activities, you don't have those connections, you are stuck in that vicious loop. And it's all about recognizing that pattern, recognizing that loop, and getting out of it. So I think that's very essential, that you recognize your patterns. And that's where the inner work comes, the shadow work comes. That's where the real grit comes, where you really have to make the decision. Do I respect myself enough? Do I love myself enough? What is my identity? Am I going to work on myself? And it's not being self-centered, but it's coming out of love and acceptance that this is who I am, this is where I am at, and I want to improve myself. And not just that, it improves everything around you. So again, you create your reality, and it starts from within, and it shows the ripple, outside, and you can see the wonderful difference it makes then. So yeah.
I was going to mention, it's you're like glowing, like I can see you through my screen of my phone. It's like this, both of you. And I'm like, what it is, it's gratitude. That's the key between what I'm hearing and seeing out of you this morning and myself, is that, pain gives us the ability and the capacity to experience joy. It's almost like, being forged through those fires of whatever it is, our traumas, our dramas, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But the outcome is that forward motion, and gratitude is the beginning nugget. Appreciation and gratitude is where to start, and it's a simple thing, and it's as simple as like, thank you for my feet that have carried me through this. Thank you for my legs that have walked me down this road. I mean, all these little teeny tiny affirmations that we can be grateful for every single day. And, I notice so many times people that are just married to their complaints. And, you just listen and it's like, wow, but also people's posturing, people wear their lives on their faces, and it's so interesting to me, but it's never too late to start all over again. And at 46, I found yoga, which was very, very life changing for me. And I remember thinking I was old at 46, right? I was thinking I should be like, oh, I should be more flexible. I need to work out before I go there. It's so crazy, the things that we tell ourselves. But you know, the gift that that gave me was another beginning, you know, and I've had several beginnings in my life. And you know, but we by gratitude, that's a good grounding force to start with each day. And then and throughout that day, you know, and here's just a little example, but yesterday I was on the job site and I'm building these big stone steps and they're very heavy and it's you got to be really focused. Well, there's this young guy, he's like 28 years old and he's got his tool belt and all his tool stuff and he's kind of been watching me and I can tell he's real confused how a 63-year-old woman can move a 400-pound rock, right? And finally, he just started talking to me. And we got to talking, you know, and I said, well, you know, what do you love? Because he's thinking he's old at 28. He's like, well, you know, the worst thing ever happens. I got divorced. I said, oh, you got divorced? How old were you? 21? Like, what'd you get married at 16? But anyway, but, you know, he was just precious. And the more we got talking, all of a sudden he started talking about going fishing. And he pulls out his phone and he starts showing me these He says, you wouldn't believe it. I don't know if the storm had something to do with the rivers coming down, but these fish, he goes, I go at nighttime and I'm telling you, he lit up. And I've got chills. I've sat with him and I looked at him and I listened to him. He went from being this like construction kind of, I'm doing this because I'm, you know, this is my job, to lit up. Okay. And the more we talked, and I looked at the pictures, I listened to him, and I said, you know, it seems to me that you really love fishing. He goes, I've won so many tournaments. I mean, I've won a lot of tournaments. And he was going on and on. And I said, well, I said, you know, I see you as being like on front of like the fishing magazine. I see you as taking something that you love to do and using that for your future. I said, eventually you'll probably be teaching people how to fish. I mean, it was the most fun, exciting day to talk to this guy. And he left there up here that evening. Now, what is that? It was like, and I told him too, he was over there and I'm over here hitting these rocks. And I said, aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky to be out in this nature and be, and the cicadas have invaded. Okay, 17 years they stay in the ground. Well, this year, two versions came out. So they are screaming bloody murder, and we're out there working, and they're getting on you, like they're landing on me, and I'm like, ugh. But anyway, we were laughing about it. I said, aren't we lucky? And he turned around and he goes, I've never even thought about that.
Yeah.
He said, thanks for saying that. We are lucky, you know, and it was this whole, you know, and so I guess it's everybody has their own ministry. And what are you ministering? Are you ministering negativity? Oh, it's hot out here. I'm sweating. It's so humid. These bugs are all over me. Oh my God. Or is it something that's uplifting? And so I feel like that's why we three have been put together, because that's what I get from you two, for myself, because I'm a selfish person and I want what I want and I want to be happy.
Well, it's not selfish to be happy, Jill. It's not selfish. That's you get one human that you've got to look after for all of your life,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
to feed her with self-love and to feed her peace and feed her happiness. And so it's not selfish, but just chatting about gratitude. So a massive big part of my daily routine has been for a long, long time. And so if there's something that's particularly bothering, or I'm a wee bit worried or stressed about something, I take that particular issue or problem and I encourage myself to write down 10 things that is positive about that situation. So say for me, it's no job. So the positive of that is I get more time to spend on myself. Thank you that I've had work all of my life. So I almost train my mind to see, okay, so this looks negative, but could you think of 10 things that is really positive out of this situation? And so therefore we've taken something that has become a massive worry and a massive stress and turned it into gratitude and humbleness and groundedness. So yeah, getting on board with that, Jill. Gratitude is a superpower. It's a superpower. Yeah.
Completely agree with that, Jill and Sabrina, because I think as long as your heart is beating, you know you're blessed. You know that you are in your full power. You know that you exist. You know that, you've been given this life and this opportunity. And I think with gratitude, being grateful for everything, even your heartbeat, that you're able to breathe and that you exist is such a big deal. And I think people shouldn't take, their bodies, their lives, and they're just existing, being over here has, I think really people shouldn't take things for granted, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Your life is a big deal. You matter. You are valued. You exist, and that is more than enough. Your heart is beating. You're able to breathe. You're able to think. I think it's beautiful. It's the biggest gift that we could ever be given. And I think that creates such a big vibe, and that expands. We are such magnetic beings that we create that magnet around us, and then we attract all of those aspects where, like you said, Jill, I think, and even Sabrina said that we've got to look at the good things. We've got to be grateful for the smallest things. And I think I'm so grateful for nature, being connected to nature. I think whenever you feel you're drowning, you just sit in that stillness and you just be grateful that your heart is beating, that you exist, that you're able to breathe, that you're able to think, and just connect, even connect with the plant if you don't have the privilege of being out in the nature, I think. But grounding yourself, centering yourself, being grateful, I think that's the biggest blessing and privilege we are given as human beings. And I think that just expands everything and makes it so much more bigger. So I think, yes, gratitude, writing down is again very powerful. Saying things, again, very powerful. Everything has vibration and frequency. So really, again, just shifting to that makes such a big difference in that moment itself. So I think that is, again, a simple practice, but a very, very valuable practice. And just valuing yourself, being present. I think that is the biggest, wonderful gift you can give yourself, of being present.
Yes, years and years, they talk about the dark night of the soul. I feel like I had the dark decades of the soul. And, when you're paralyzed with depression and fear and self-doubt and all these things that I had many, many years and I was on the journey and I was doing the work and I felt like I was really trying with all of my ability, and I could not pull myself out. And so I went through so many different trials and tribulations, because the biggest thing in the beginning was drinking and using, because I was addicted to everything on the planet. And to start a life without that, emotionally, I was about a 13-year-old. And so all these emotions, I just didn't know what to do with them. But even by the time I got into my 40s, I was very, very still just sort of hyper vigilant about, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I need to catch up with my peers. I didn't even know my peers by then. But, it was like this constant. And then, I think coming full circle to Louise Hay and such, I tell you what really got me was 2 years ago, I went to a writing retreat in Greece, and we had to write some things. And I had this vision in my mind, and I was writing a little bit about some depression and stuff. And I said, oh my God. And I was like in a prison with bars. And then I looked right outside, and there were the keys hanging the whole time. And those keys were gratitude, open-mindedness, willingness, acceptance, love, all the keys dangling. All I had to do is reach out and open the dang door, And I'll never forget, I heard a woman say one time, she said, God didn't open the gates of heaven and let me in, but God opened the gates of hell and let me out. And I knew at that point that this is all in here. It's all in here. And that's that writing retreat. And I just started writing, and I went there to go be an observer. Like, I didn't even think I could write a damn thing. And those scholars and those people were like, Jill, you're a writer and you didn't know it. And I've always been an observer. I've always observed human behavior. And I think it was because I had to keep myself safe. And in that world, and I think you both know what I'm referring to, but you're always kind of looking over your shoulder because you don't know when the shoe's going to drop. But even those messages, those that kept us safe, they don't have to serve us anymore. We don't have to depend on those old ways to keep us safe anymore because we got new tools. So it's not that I have to keep looking like somebody's going to gay bash me or, something's going to happen. I don't have that energy anymore. That energy doesn't exude from me anymore because when we put out that kind of energy, we draw back in what we're putting out. And that's the Louise Hay work, is how to shift and have an energy that's, vacuuming, the law of the vacuum. You bring in what serves you now and you repulse what no longer works. And to me, those were some huge, huge awakening moments, to realize that I hold the key. If I want to change it, I've got the key. I change my thinking. It always seems to go back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
It does.
We could chat all day and open up. And do you know what? It's just so lovely to hear you open up your hearts and just it's just lovely. It's just with one purpose, to share the wisdom, to be the wisdom, to feel the wisdom. It's wonderful to come together as a collective like this. It really is. Like, so many golden nuggets are going to come out of these particular videos. There really are.
Yeah. And you know what, Sabrina, I think it's so cool that, that this is just a let it rip session. There's no script, it's like we're just going to be ourselves. That's what we're here to do anyway, was to be who we really are. And that's why I think this is so important, is that, there's no bells and whistles with all this. This is just us being here, being honest. And, I care deeply about both of you and your lives and your futures, and as to my own. And I feel like, wherever this takes us is going to be fun, and the joy's in the journey, baby. That's what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So we leave the viewers with an affirmation each, ladies, will we? Just to wrap it up. So if you could pick one affirmation to send out there into the world, into people's hearts, what would you send, Jill?
I think off the top of my head, what I need to know is being revealed to me today.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah. And it's, it's about listening, looking, seeing, hearing, all the senses, tasting. I mean, the messaging that comes to us through a little bird, through a billboard, like whatever inner ding that you get is a message. And I really pay attention. I call it following the breadcrumbs. So more will be revealed.
Mignon?
And for me, it would be, I am enough. Knowing that I exist, I am enough. And I think I accept myself just the way I am. I am whole, I'm perfect, I'm safe, I'm enough.
Yeah. For me, the ultimate, and for me, is I am willing to learn to love myself, or I love myself, or I'm willing to look at ways to love myself. Really, really powerful, and such a deep and transformational affirmation, and a journey from the moment you say that, isn't it? Such a journey from the moment that you declare that you're willing to learn to love yourself, or I do love myself. And yeah, because it's the crux of everything. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was wonderful, ladies, and we shall continue this conversation soon. And yes,
Yeah. And
hope.
so we'll be announcing like what day or an hour that our podcast will be launched. And so it's just the beginning stages. And so we'll be able to tell people, when they can tune in on a weekly basis to us. And it'll be really fun to see this grow and where it goes and who all gets involved. And hopefully we can interface with some listeners. That would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, ladies, we'll say
Okay.
good night.